Today's lesson is What do you know about coriander? Hi everybody, my name is Roger.
And I'm Helen.
Today we're going to continue talking about coriander, which again is referred to as香菜here in Taiwan, and it's quite common in local dishes, and I remember eating it in squid soup many times in the past. But in any case, again, it's used quite common in cooking here and in other places around the world.
Yes, and in the previous lesson, we talked about whether coriander was an herb or a spice and discovered that it was actually both. And we also talked about coriander's long history, how it dates back thousands of years, 9,000 years to be precise, and how it spread from Central Asia all the way to the Americas.
Indeed, but there's something special about coriander. It's one of those spices or one of those herbs or types of food that not everybody likes. People seem to have a love-hate relationship with coriander. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It's similar to durian. I happen to like durian, but I know lots of other people out there hate durian. So again, love it or hate it. That's the first thing we're going to talk about today in the first part of our lesson. So let's listen.
Love it or hate it. While most people would describe the smell and taste of coriander as being light and lemony, some have a strong dislike of the herb. They say it has a soapy taste that's just too overpowering, and there may be a scientific reason for this negative reaction. According to the results of one 2012 study, some people possess a gene that makes them particularly sensitive to aldehydes, which are organic compounds that make up soap and give coriander its fragrance.
大家好，第一部分我们看到动词 overpower 表示使难以承受。例如 The smell of stinky tofu overpowered Sam 臭豆腐的臭味使 Sam 受不了。或是 The smell of gas overpowered me as I stepped into the basement 我一踏进地下室的时候，一股瓦斯气味向我袭来。接着我们看到单字 gene这个字是名词，指的是基因。举例来说 I got the gene for height from my father, who was almost 2 meters tall. 我从爸爸那边得到高的基因，他将近2公尺高。或是 Rita believes that her talent in math is a result of her genes. Rita 认为她的数学天分是遗传的。另外，将这个字的字尾加上 tic 就变成了形容词 genetic， 意思是基因的或者是遗传的。像是 Susie is an expert in genetic diseases. Susie 是基因疾病方面的专家。或是 Gerald has a genetic bone disorder. Gerald 有一种遗传的骨骼疾病。再来，我们看到名词 fragrance表示香气或者是芳香。例如 The fragrance of the bush could be smelled from across the street. 灌木的香气从对街就可以闻得到。或是 I could smell the soft fragrance of flowers coming from my garden. 我能闻到从我花园里散发出的淡淡花香。
So, coriander, you either love it or hate it. While most people would describe the smell and taste of coriander as being light and lemony, some have a strong dislike of the herb. So, most people, when they think of coriander or when they taste it, might say that it has a very light taste and it tastes a bit like lemon, and that's what lemony means. It tastes like lemon. Other people will taste it and say, yuck, I don't want to eat this. It's disgusting.
Exactly. Are you a fan of coriander, Helen?
I'm not a fan, but I don't dislike it either, so I can take it or leave it.
I'm kind of the same way, so maybe we're just tolerating it. Maybe we really hate it, but we've learned to make peace with it. But indeed, some people just love it, some people hate it. And again, those who love it would describe it as being light and lemony in fragrance and taste and smell. But some, of course, have a strong dislike of the herb. They smell it. Ugh, what is that stuff? Get that stuff away from me. I'm not going to eat that food if coriander is in it. And the people who don't like it, the people who have a strong dislike of coriander, say it has a soapy taste that's just too overpowering, and there may be a scientific reason for this negative reaction. So if something is soapy, well, it tastes like soap. I never felt that way about coriander, but maybe the next time I taste it, maybe I'll try to think, does this taste like soap? I'm not sure a lot of people actually know what soap tastes like. I think we know what it smells like when we bathe ourselves, but they also describe it as being overpowering, which is how I would describe it. It's very, very strong to me. It does seem overpowering, although I can tolerate it, but it still is quite strong.
Right. So if something is overpowering, it just means that it takes over everything else. So if coriander is overpowering, it means that that taste of coriander is taking over all of the other flavors and tastes of a particular dish. And note here the words soapy and lemony. So by adding a Y after these nouns, you can turn these nouns into an adjective to describe something, the way something tastes, the way something smells. So I could also say chocolatey, or I could say salty, for instance.
Indeed, and of course there are lots of adjectives to describe the flavor of food or wine. It has a fruity taste, for example, if you're talking about certain kinds of wine. But here, some people describe coriander as having a soapy taste and that it is overpowering. But there may be some science to this. There may be a scientific explanation for this negative reaction. According to the results of one 2012 study, some people possess a gene that makes them particularly sensitive to aldehydes, which are organic compounds that make up soap and give coriander its fragrance. Now, to possess means to have something, and some people might possess a certain gene. We've got lots of genes in our DNA, and they affect certain things in our personalities. And I think there are probably lots of genes in there that influence what kinds of foods that we like and what kinds of foods that we don't like. But some people actually have a gene that makes them sensitive to a chemical or an organic compound which is present in coriander. And these are a series of organic compounds called aldehydes. Okay, I'm not a scientist and I don't feel responsible for giving you the chemical formula for this particular compound, but in any case, it will suffice to say that it is included in coriander, and some people are sensitive to aldehydes. They are sensitive to it like some people are sensitive to, say, pollen or have allergies to other things.
Right, and it all depends on this particular gene that you possess or that you have. As an example of the word gene, I often blame my genes or the information in the cell that make up my body, passed on from my parents to me. I blame my genes for certain things that I cannot do, like tell the direction. I'm always getting lost, just like my father, just like my grandfather. So I think that my lack of ability to tell the direction or find a particular place is due to the gene that was passed on from my father to me.
Oh, so your lack of a sense of direction is genetic. I'm not sure there's some scientific basis for that. I'm good with directions myself, but I'm not sure it's genetic. But in any case here, some people do have a gene that will make them sensitive to aldehydes. And what are those? Well, they're organic compounds that are part of soap, and they're also in coriander, and they give coriander its fragrance. So, of course, we've got different kinds of chemicals mixed together, so we're calling them organic compounds. Organic is yoji, so these are compounds, chemicals basically, in coriander and in soap. And, of course, they give the coriander its fragrance, although I think people who like coriander will not say it smells like soap.
Right, and the word compound here simply means a chemical substance that's made up of elements, two or more elements. So, for instance, water is a compound of the elements hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now and talk about some more properties of coriander.
An herb for your health. Those who are turned off by coriander should think twice before avoiding it completely, since numerous health benefits are associated with this herb. Commonly used in traditional medicines, coriander is loaded with vitamins A, K, and C, which promote eye, skin, and tooth health, bone strength, and a strong immune system, respectively. It also contains lots of fiber and minerals that together aid in digestion.
第二部分，我们看到片语 turn off， 有时某人失去兴趣的意思。例如 The loud music in the restaurant turned me off. 餐厅里吵杂的音乐让我很不喜欢。或者 The mathematics is so hard that learning it turned me off. 数学太难了，我失去了学习它的动力。另外补充这个片语的反义词 turn on， 指引起某人的兴趣之意。举例来说 My cousin turned me on to a new author. 我堂哥引起我对一位新作家的兴趣。也可以说 Sue turned her younger brother onto classical music. Sue 开启了弟弟对古典乐的兴趣。接着我们看到片语 be loaded with 加名词，这个指的是大量的点点点，或者是富含点点点，像是 If you want to lift weights, it's important to eat foods that are loaded with carbs and protein. 如果你想要做重量训练，多摄取含有大量碳水化合物以及蛋白质的食物很重要。或是 I clipped an article loaded with great tips for eating out in Tokyo for our trip to Japan. 为了我们的日本之旅，我剪下一篇富含东京外食秘诀的文章。最后我们看到单字 respectively， 这个字是副词，表示分别的或者是各自的。例如 Dan and Brian respectively scored 1 and 3 points in our last game. Dan 和 Brian 在我们上一场比赛中分别得到1分和3分。也可以说The HR and IT departments will receive a 6 and a 10% increase in budgets respectively. 人力资源部以及资讯部门的预算将各自增加 6% 和 10%。
And the second part of our talk about coriander is titled An Herb for Your Health. So those who are turned off by coriander should think twice before avoiding it completely. And we were talking before about how Roger and I both aren't really enthusiastic about eating coriander. Perhaps we really don't like it, but we've just gotten used to it. However, even if that's the case, even if we're turned off by coriander, meaning we don't like it or we try to avoid it, we should think twice before avoiding it completely, meaning we should reconsider. We should think well before we decide not to eat it at all. And there is a reason for this.
So you might not like it, you might be turned off by coriander, but still you should consider consuming it because it actually is good for you. Remember, we've got the phrase to turn off. That's what you do to your television if you're not watching it. Turn it off. And then, of course, if you want to watch TV, you turn it on. But in this particular case, though, it's referring to people having a positive or negative reaction to something. Like if you're on a date with a really hot guy and he's wearing some special cologne, you might say, "Hey there, handsome boy, your cologne is really turning me on." And, of course, you might be turned off by his cologne as well. But in this particular case, some people might be turned off by coriander. But think twice. Think again because it's actually good for you.
That's right. Coriander can actually be good for you because it has numerous health benefits. So not just one health benefit, but numerous, meaning many. And these health benefits are associated with coriander. And the verb associate here means to form a connection with something, to be linked to something in a particular way. So you can say that lung cancer is associated with smoking cigarettes.
Right, so you should quit smoking cigarettes and start consuming more coriander because it has lots of health benefits. It has numerous health benefits, and they are associated with this herb. In other words, if you consume this herb, then you can have various health benefits. Commonly used in traditional medicines, coriander is loaded with vitamins A, K, and C, which promote eye, skin, and tooth health, bone strength, and a strong immune system, respectively. Now, here we've got the word respectively. That means we've listed some things at the beginning, in this particular case, vitamins A, K, and C. And then toward the end of the sentence, we listed some other things that are associated with the first three things. So instead of going, vitamin A promotes eye, skin, and tooth health, vitamin K promotes bone strength, and vitamin C promotes a strong immune system. That's quite wordy, so we can phrase it this way. We can say vitamins A, K, and C promote eye, skin, and tooth health, bone strength, and a strong immune system, respectively. So those three items match up with the three items at the end of the sentence.
That's right, and that's not all. It also contains lots of fiber and minerals that together aid in digestion. So we all know that it's important to eat a lot of fiber, and fiber can be gotten from fruits and vegetables and grains, but also from coriander, from cilantro, and this herb also has a lot of minerals. And these fiber and minerals together will help you digest better, and it will help keep your stomach, your digestive system healthy.
Right, so that's pretty cool. It's got those vitamins in there, which help out various aspects of your body. It's got fiber, it's got minerals, and they help with digestion. So if you ever suffer from constipation, coriander just might help you flush things out. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third part, and we'll wrap things up.
Given its history and health-promoting characteristics, it's fair to say that coriander is a pretty cool herb. So sprinkle some on your food and enjoy its goodness.
So concluding our discussion of coriander, it says here, given its history and health-promoting characteristics, it's fair to say that coriander is a pretty cool herb. So given its history and health-promoting characteristics, this phrase just means considering the history and the health-promoting characteristics of coriander. And here the word characteristic means a particular quality or a particular feature that something or somebody has. And we're saying that coriander has characteristics that promote health, promote human health.
Right, so when you consider the history and when you consider its health-promoting characteristics, it's fair to say, it's reasonable to say that coriander is a pretty cool herb, okay? Indeed, I think I'm going to head down to the traditional market and pick some up myself and try it in various dishes and things like that because, hey, it does have a strong smell and strong taste that I am kind of used to, and it also has health benefits, etc., etc. So yeah, it's reasonable to say that it's a pretty cool herb. We're not referring to the temperature here, cool. Of course, cool just means it's hip, it's really great, it's acceptable in society, and if you have coriander at home, hey, you're going to have lots of friends coming over to say hi to you.
Right. So sprinkle some on your food and enjoy its goodness. So the suggestion here is to incorporate coriander into your food, into your cooking, and you can sprinkle some on your food. To sprinkle something means to put a small amount of something. That something could be liquid or something that is in small pieces like sugar or salt or pepper, and you put it over the surface of the food that you're eating. So since fresh cilantro isn't going to be in box or jar, sprinkling some over the food just means taking your fingers and taking some pieces of cilantro that's already been cut and just lightly distributing it over a dish of food.
Indeed, it might make it taste quite good, and after you do that, you can enjoy the goodness of that particular dish. It will taste oh so yummy. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen to Hanny now.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有出现两个形容词 lemony 和 soapy， 那它们都带有字尾 y。 我们来介绍这个字尾 y。 当形容词字尾的时候呢，它是有这种有什么什么特质的，充满什么什么的，倾向于什么什么，或是像什么什么一样的，那常常会接在名词之后。像我们文中的 lemony 就是由 lemon 柠檬加上字尾 y 构成形容词 lemony， 就是有柠檬味的，柠檬香的。 soapy 就是由 soap 肥皂加上字尾 y 构成形容词 soapy， 就是表达含有肥皂的，像肥皂的。我们这边再补充几个形容词哦。第一个 salty， 它是由 salt 盐加上字尾 y 表示像什么什么的，那合在一起 salty 就是咸的，含盐巴含盐的。好，那么第二个补充的是 thirsty， 它是由 thirst 口渴加上字尾 y， 这个 y 它表示具有某种特质的，那合在一起 thirsty 就是口渴的。第三个补充的是 windy， 它是由 wind风加上字尾 y， 这个 y 表示充满什么什么的，那合在一起 windy 就是多风的，刮风的。好，那除此之外 y 也可以当作抽象名词字尾，用来表达状态啊、情况或是特质，或是用来表达某个特别的行动或商业地点。像 laundry 洗衣店，这个单字它就带有字尾 y 嘛。我们再来看几个例子哦。第一个是 honesty， 它是由 honest诚实的加上字尾 y 表示状态，那构成这个名词 honesty 就是诚实的意思。第二个 mastery， 它是由 master 精通加上字尾 y 表示状态，构成名词 mastery 就是熟练精通的意思。那么第三个 inquiry 或是念作 inquiry，它是由 inquire 询问再加上字尾 y 表示行动，那么构成的名词 inquiry 就表示询问打听咯。接着读到课文第三部分的第一句，他说 Given its history and health promoting characteristics, it's fair to say that coriander is a pretty cool herb. 好，那这边有两个重点。第一个是 given 在这里是当介系词，它表示有鉴于点点点，考虑到点点点，那么之后是接名词。我们也常常用 given that 接子句去表达说考虑到某情况啊，有鉴于某个因素。举例来说 Given his charismatic personality, it's no surprise that everyone loves him. 有鉴于他非常有魅力的个性，大家都喜爱他，并不令人意外。好，那第二个补充的重点是 It's fair to say that主词加动词，这是表达说什么什么，说 that 子句这个内容呢是恰当的。那么形容词 fair 它表示公平的、公允的、合理的。那 it's fair to say 后面接子句就是用来带出说话者他觉得合情合理、不为过的事情。举例来说 It's fair to say that they handled the crisis pretty well. 说他们把危机处理得很好，并不为过，说这样子是很合理的。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Possess. Animals do not possess the ability to use language in the same way that humans do. Gene. Your genes determine the color of your eyes. Compound. Carbon is an element, but carbon dioxide is a compound. Numerous. After numerous defeats, Dave finally won a chess tournament. Characteristic. Each of the neighborhoods in the city has its own characteristics. Sprinkle. Patricia sprinkled a generous amount of cheese on the pizza.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, which fact about coriander did you find the most interesting?
Well, before I read the article, I had no idea that coriander or cilantro tasted soapy for some people. I realized that perhaps some people didn't like the taste, but I didn't know that they didn't like it because it tasted soapy.
Well, I thought it was interesting that coriander has some medicinal properties, that it's good for our eyes and our skin and our bones and things like that. And yeah, as I grow older, I am afraid about stooping over and having bad posture. So in order to prevent that, I think I'm going to incorporate coriander into my daily diet. Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.